Ready when you are.
Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
hey, it's going okay. It's a Saturday here, Sunday there.
Mm-hmm.
Quiet here, dinner time. Just past brekkie for you, huh?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Early.
Early. That's not fair because
Well,
you
early in
are
the week. Early for the weekend.
for the weekend, yeah, because you are a person who gets up early. Like
I
I mean,
do get up early.
it's 10 o'clock. This is late for you as far
It
as
is very late for me.
I was always, we're talking about a chapter that has good habits, and I was always impressed with how you kept yourself on an early schedule, like that. Start your day.
I've been slacking a little bit, to be fair.
Well, there's a little less structure, it's
Mm.
it's tough, But
Mm-hmm.
soon, hopefully soon, with the computer and everything, will get you back on a routine. Well,
Yes.
this chapter, huh? Chapter 8.
Yes. Yes.
This
This one attacks me personally.
You and half of the free world, I'm telling you. This one's rough. It's patience is power. In like I think most of us are not very patient in today's day and age, right? Like it's 2020.
Mm,
It's go go go. It's fast fast fast. We want our entertainment. We're doing
yep.
2, 3, 4 things at a time. Nothing can
Mm-hmm.
happen fast enough. I mean, gosh, if we have to wait more than 2 seconds in the checkout line, we're like grumpy, like right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, um, so it's really hard to drill down and see that that's actually working against us,
Yep.
like
Uh,
completely.
uh, I mean, the perfect example is like YouTube Shorts and TikTok.
Or the
Like,
most popular viewing things, right?
yep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've all at some point lost about at least an hour to just watching shorts.
Yeah, you know what? There's actually a survey that some people were doing. There's some testing going on. You open the app in 2 hours disappear. Yep, gone.
Yeah,
You just
I so many times I've been like, oh, this is an interesting short. Where did 3 hours go?
Yeah, you know what? I deleted TikTok from my phone for that reason.
Mm,
It's not I don't have it. And then I have to actually actively go out of my way to get into it, like bring it up on a PC or something because it was just crazy. It was just
mm,
and it was like not leaving me in a good mood, like when I got out of there either. Like
no,
more
because you feel
often than
really
not.
guilty.
No, not well, that too. Actually, that is part of it. I feel guilty
Mm,
for wasting time, and I felt guilty for allowing people to incite rioting me with their statements and the things they were doing because, like, at the time it was like all these things where people were purposely videoing themselves doing really stupid things and
mm-hmm,
putting really stupid, like the most absurd, stupid criminal on some aspects. Um,
mm-hmm.
rhetoric, misinformation. There were no rules on TikTok. Everybody was just like going wild and doing whatever they could, like as if they was like they were a bunch of like ranktacious teenagers or something pushing against authority. It was horrible.
Yep.
It's like not that I'm a rule obeyer or anything like that. I don't want to sound like a prude, but it pissed me off. Like really so much. I don't know, but and I don't do it anymore. I'm anti TikTok, not because of any of the China controversy or anything like that.
Mm.
Um, just because I have a
It's a
theory.
time thief.
Yeah, yeah, true. But I have this theory in life that I kind of live by. You
Mm,
know, you want to know what it is? I apply it.
absolutely.
I apply it to everything. It's very very
Mm,
simple. It goes back to when I was setting up systems in my own business. Garbage in, garbage out.
yep. And there's a
The,
whole lot of garbage coming in lately.
the more I absorbed that stuff, the more I knew I was just gonna start talking dumb and saying stupid things and doing stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. I tossed it. I threw TikTok in the garbage that it belongs in, right in the trash.
Yep.
You know? So anyway, this chapter. Shall we pray? Oh, hello, book lover. It's good to see you.
Hey, welcome.
Yep. It's a quiet Saturday here, but we're gonna get with it. We're gonna get with
Mm-hmm.
it. All right. Shall I bring up the presentation?
Absolutely.
Hmm. See if I get the right view. Oh, yes, I did. Look at that. So this chapter is all about patience and about respecting the process. It's called Respect the Process, Mastery. And it opens with the fools in life want things fast and easy money, success, and attention. Boredom is their great enemy and fear. Whatever they manage to get slips through their hands as fast as it comes in. You, on the other hand, want to outlast your rivals. You are building the foundation for something that can continue to expand. To make this happen, you will have to serve an apprenticeship. You must learn early on to endure the hours of practice and drudgery, knowing that in the end, all of that time will translate into a higher pleasure, mastery over craft and over yourself. Your goal is to reach the ultimate skill level, an intuitive feel for what comes next.
Exactly.
And then it's Charlie Parker, the good old Charlie Parker quote.
Mm-hmm.
Slow money. Master the instrument, master the music, then forget all that shit and play. In other
Yep.
words, learn how to do it, learn it well, and then do whatever you want with it. Now it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. I love that saying. Totally.
Yep.
And so then we go to the book, and
Mm.
Would you?
I do have to say that first quote sort of touches on something I've noticed in myself, which is like there is actually a genuine fear of boredom, or at least I have a genuine fear of boredom and
Mhm.
what comes with it.
Oh, yeah,
Really?
like, you're not doing anything. Like, if you're not in constant motion, you're failing, right?
Mm,
But here's the
or
thing. If you're in constant motion and it's not applied constant motion, you are failing.
exactly. You're failing just as much. You're just being
Yeah.
entertained while you do it.
You just don't realize that you're here's the thing. You don't realize you're standing in your own way. Like, that's you on
Yep.
the other side standing in your way to do what
Yep.
you need to do. Yeah. Yeah, that resonates, doesn't it?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why this chapter, you're all gonna hate us. Believe it's not us, it's the book, okay? It's a lesson that we all have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Don't shoot the messages, please. Actually, if you are annoyed by the content of this chapter, we did our job. We actually did.
Yes. And you should
Because
like this video.
you should and promote it. Yes.
Yep.
Promote my video. Yeah, absolutely. Welcome everybody coming in. Would you like to do the story? And I think while you read,
Yes.
I will just make it you and your lovely voice up there. And then when you're done with the story, because we always like to go from Mr. Green and 50 Cent's idea of
Mm-hmm.
how to get this idea across,
Yep. Okay. Growing up in Southside Queens, the only people Curtis Jackson could see who had any money and power were the street hustlers. So at the age of 11, and with big dreams of the future, he chose such a path for himself. Almost immediately, however, he saw that the life of a hustler was not glamorous at all. It consisted of mostly standing on a street corner day after day, selling the same stuff to the same fiends. It meant enduring hours with nothing to do, waiting for customers to come by, often in the bitter cold or the blistering heat. And in those long, tedious hours of the streets, Curtis's mind naturally would wander. He would find himself wishing for money that would come faster and easier, with more excitement. There were opportunities for this in the hood. They mostly involved crime or some dubious scheme. Sometimes he would feel himself tempted to try them, but in such moments he would remind himself of the endless stories of the hustlers he had known who had fallen for the illusion of fast, easy money. All suckers who inevitably ended up dead or broke. There was a friend, TC, who got tired of hustling and fell in with a crew that would spend the summer robbing convenience stores and occasionally a bank. He made quite a haul of money over those 3 months and then blew it all over the fall and winter. The following summer, he was back at it again. It was just the money. It wasn't just the money. It was the thrill that came with flirting with so much danger. But that second summer, his luck ran out, and he was killed in a gunfight with the police.
Hmm.
There was Curtis's colleague Spite, a few years older, who had managed to save some money from his hustling, and had dreams of something much bigger. He convinced himself he could make a fortune fast by buying a piece of a franchise business that was new to the hood, but that he felt was certain to be hot. He poured all of his money into the venture, but he was too impatient. He had not taken the time to accustom the public to his new life. Everyone believed the business was just a front for some drug operation. They avoided it, and it soon became a hangout for hustlers and fiends. It failed within a few months, and he never recovered from the experience.
Hmm.
This was the gist of the problem. To be a successful hustler, You had to accustom yourself to the slow, grinding pace of the job. But in the hood, the future rarely seemed promising. It was hard for hustlers to imagine saving money for some rainy day in the future when the day would probably never come. Inevitably, the desire for something faster would creep into their blood, and if they gave in, they created a cycle they could never escape. If they were able to get some fast money, it would act like a drug. They could get excited. They would get excited and spend it all on items to impress people. With no money left, they would return to dealing drugs. But now it seemed too slow and boring. They would try again for something fast. They became trapped by their own greed, and as the years went by, they would fail to develop any kind of patience or discipline. They could not manage this up and down pace for too long. By the age of 25 or 30, they would burn themselves out and have no skills or money to show for their years of work. Their fate after that was generally unpleasant. To resist this temptation, Curtis decided he would force himself in the opposite direction. He treated hustling as a job. He showed up on the street corner at the same hour every day, working from dawn to dusk. Gradually, he accustomed himself to the slow pace. During the long hours with nothing to do, he would contemplate the future and come up with detailed plans of what he would accomplish year by year, ending with his eventual escape from the street hustling. He would move into music and then into business. To take the first step, he would have to save his money. The thought of this goal helped him endure the daily tedium of the job. In these slow hours, he also devised new hustling schemes with the idea of continually improving himself at this job. He took up boxing to discipline his mind and body. He was terrible at first, but he was tenacious, training day in, day out, eventually becoming a skilled fighter. This taught him invaluable lessons. He could get whatever he wanted through sheer persistence rather than by violence or force. Progressing step by step was the only way to succeed in anything. By the age of 20, he made his break into music, all according to his original plan. In 1999, after a few years of apprenticing with Jam Master Jay, Curtis, now known as 50 Cent, signed a deal with Columbia Records. It seemed like a dream come true, but as he looked around at the other rappers who had been at the label a little longer, he saw the dangers around him and had only increased. The tendency, as he saw it, was to immediately let up in your energy and focus. Rappers would feel that he had arrived, and unconsciously they wouldn't work as hard and would spend less time learning their craft. That sudden influx of money would go to their heads. They would imagine they had the golden touch and could keep it coming. One hit song or record would make this even more worse. Not building something slowly, a career, a future, it would fall apart within a few years as younger, more eager rappers would take their place. Their life would be all the more miserable for having once tasted some glory. To Curtis, the solution was simple. This was a new world that he had entered. He had to take this time to learn. He had to take his time and learn it well.
Mm-hmm.
In the fast environment of hip hop, he would slow everything down. He avoided partying and kept mostly to himself. He decided to treat Columbia Records as a university, his one chance to educate himself in the business. He would record his music at night and spend the entire day at the Columbia office, talking shop to people in every division. Gradually, he taught himself more and more about marketing and distribution and the nuts and bolts of the business. He studied all aspects of production, what went into making a hit song, and what went into making a hit song. He practiced his music over and over. When the label sent him and dozens of other rappers to a retreat in upstate New York to write songs, he returned with 36 tracks, while most of the others could barely muster 5 or 6. In the wake of the assassination attempt on 50 in 2000, Columbia Record dropped him from the label, but by then he had outgrown his need for their expertise. He had accumulated so much knowledge and skill that he was able to apply all of his mixtape. He was able to apply it all to his mixtape campaign, creating songs at an insane pace and marketing his music as smartly as any professional. Step by step, he advanced, the campaign gaining the attention of Eminem, who signed him to his label at Interscope in 2003. Years later, he found himself in the corporate world. He quickly discovered it was not much different from the streets. So many of the business people and executives he met had the same level of impatience. They could only think in terms of months or weeks. Their relationship to money was emotional, a way to impose their importance and feed their ego. They would come to him with schemes that seemed intriguing in the present, but that led nowhere down the road. They were not attuned to the immense changes going on in the world and planning to exploit them. Going on in the world and planning to exploit them in the future. That would take too much effort and time. These business types came at him from all directions, with endorsement deals that would make him some fast millions. They assumed he was like all other rappers who grabbed at such opportunities, but endorsement deals would not help him build anything solid or real. It was illusion money. He would turn them down, opting to start his own businesses on his own terms, each business building on the other like links on a chain. The goal this time was simple: to forge an empire that would last, and as before, he would get there through his own grinding persistence.
Yep. That kind of shows you what he actually did to actually put this chapter in motion. What he noticed all the others around him, why they were failing. Like that kind of resonated when you go into a new place like he did in the music industry, and he has his record deal, and he's looking at people that were there before him and just noticing how they slacked off now that they've made it. Like they here they are with this great opportunity,
Yep.
and now they're like, yeah, it's okay to enjoy it,
Mm,
you're at the top, but are you going to stay there? Are you going to keep it if you don't
mm.
keep doing what it did to get you there? Like all of that, like you can't just stop, you know.
It's like forgetting that that old the old saying, enjoy the present is just like a thing. Sorry, enjoy your success
Hmm.
is only meant to be, done for a little bit. You're not meant to continually try and just enjoy one thing. Well, enjoy success for a very long period of time. You should be
Hmm.
trying to keep pushing forward with it.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. In the book, as always, is going to like focus on how did 50 do it, and he calls it the fearless approach. Robert Greene does. He does the fearless approach, and then he does the keys, the fearless, methods. Well,
Mm,
the quote that he used was actually from 50 for this one, because of all the chapters, this is the one thing about Curtis Jackson that resonates. The man was always in motion. He never stopped. Like, I don't think boredom was a thing with him, but at the same time, he had the patience in the long-term plan and the long-term drive, in the patience to take it step by step, patience to gather all the information ahead of time before he made any move, even back when he was on the street. He didn't
mm,
do anything willy-nilly. He watched, he observed, he learned before he did anything. Like, he really paid attention, like they said, to his environment, to the
Yep.
reality of the situation, and then was able with all that information to take advantage of an opportunity if it came up, be opportunistic, use it to his advantage. And he kind of learned when to push, when not to, when to be aggressive, when not to, like all the lessons of the book. But this one, the habit building of taking things slow and taking it in and building a process to move yourself forward is really key. But he says most people can't handle boredom. That means they can't stay on one thing until they get good at it, and they wonder why they're unhappy. And most of the time it's because you dropped the ball. you know
Mm-hmm.
how many of us, like, let's be honest, okay? How many of us have started projects that we really thought we were passionate about, and then we just didn't finish them?
Uh,
Guilty.
Swi Yep.
Okay. I thought you were
I've
gonna
started
say
so
pass.
many
I thought you,
projects.
in my head, I heard you go pass. Like, we're not talking about it, Claire. We're not talking about it.
Yeah, actually,
It's like,
I suggested we skip this chapter, but Claire,
right. No, he dragged me through chapters 1 through 7, which personally attacked my inner core every step of the way. No way, you're getting through this one, buddy. It's your turn.
yeah.
It was your idea. See, like, this would have been another one that you got almost all the way through, and then
Yep.
nope, I'm not doing it. Welcome to membership, Stephen. It's good to see you, and welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Yeah, no, this one, it does. And the example that they use, like, it goes back again to our primitive ancestors, right? When the world was a lot crazier and you had to gather food and worried about getting eaten and what the weather was going to do to you. And like survival itself kept you in motion and kept you busy and gave you something to work on like all the time. There was no such thing
Yep.
as boredom. There was no such thing as boredom back then. Okay. And then bringing it up to now, things are a bit more comfortable, wouldn't you say? Like life in general. Most of us roof over our head. We don't have to worry about the weather. We've got a place to sleep and food on the table. We don't have to go out there and club dinner, drag it back or any of that. It's a little bit easier. And so
Yeah, a
now,
little bit easier.
yeah, just a little bit easier. So now we have rituals like going to work and things like that, but like in our free time, we do reading and stuff like that. We have to fill these voids, these comfortable voids of time that we have, that we're not like, threatened by wild animals and bad weather and all this other stuff where things aren't trying to kill us on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bit freeing. But when you're confronted with all that freedom, your mind has a tendency to gravitate towards anxiety and fear. Like, uh-oh,
Absolutely.
what next? Right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's like human nature. In the book, like, talks about that, like about, we're all of a sudden going to get, like, with all this empty time, the reason we fill it with entertainment and we fill it with distractions is to get rid of that anxiety and fear, to try to deal with it. Um,
The
Also because
easiest and quickest way possible.
because of the human nature, because of how it was before, the fight or flight, we actually are geared to always have these challenges that we're working on. That's how it used to be. And when we don't, it's a very unsettling feeling. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it goes against our grain, so to speak, as humans. And the
Yes.
anxiety builds, the fear builds, and we don't want to be sitting around, the worst thing you want to do is be sitting there thinking about, like, the end. Like, oh gosh, I'm here, this is
Yep.
it is like, what am I going to do? Start reflecting on your life. You don't want to bring on your own existential crisis, every moment with this. So you fill it with videos and reading and hobbies, painting or art, or even, pets and, volunteer working in chores and anything,
Just lots of
working on your house.
distractions.
Just loads,
Meaningless
loads.
distractions.
Yeah. Well, maybe not meaningless if they are your goal, you know? Like let's put it this way. One person's goal is to start their own business, okay?
Hmm.
Another person's goal is to have their house in tip-top shape and just give them pleasure no matter what room they go into, just like a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
Different goals, and they would work on them differently, right? But like one person gets up and just starts working on the house, starts cleaning, organizing, going through closets, deciding on paint colors, maybe going to a store, buying a new sofa, something like that, of that nature,
Hmm.
or even just the maintenance of it, keeping it in that condition. And the other one is like working on a business plan, checking out, facilities to rent if they need space, or working on, going through employee rent, resumes for hiring people to work, things like that, dealing with meeting it. Totally
Hmm.
different worlds, but at least all the distractions they're filling their day with are working towards the end goal of what they're moving to, like,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
they're
I was saying like our habit of actually instead of doing something that would progress us, we have a habit of like filling our day with meaningless uh, entertainment type things.
Mhm. Well, there's the thing, like, we could talk about the example of Isaac Newton, who went to college during the plague. He got kicked out of college during the plague, right? And
Mm,
this is the big plague way back, okay? And I'm not a historian. I could go
that
back to the book.
bubonic stuff.
Yeah, yeah, epic, right? But they had a long
Mm,
period of time where all the students left Harvard. Okay, they all left, or Cambridge rather. They left Cambridge, and most of them fell off on their studies and just became babbling idiots. Some of them actually went insane because of the fear of the plague and not having anything to do and all of this. But Isaac Newton took himself to a little bit farther out of the city, sat there, and this is when he studied and studied and studied. He sat under a
mm,
tree and looked at an apple and a moon and started talking about, spatial distance, this, that, and the other thing, and honed his ideas and honed these concepts, so that when he got back, he started creating all these theories on scientific math and light and all of this other stuff that we all know. But that all came because he didn't allow himself to be bored. He didn't
yeah,
allow
exactly.
himself to just fill it with mindless things, or anything. He actually honed on what he was really interested in his passion, and he just went
Hmm.
forward with it. And people will say, well, how could I compare myself to Isaac Newton? All right. Well, I challenge you all. You got up this morning. What was your routine? Do you have a habit in the morning every day that you start? And it could be morning, afternoon, however you start your day. Me, I start my day like well into the afternoon. Okay. So when you awake,
Mm,
besides your brekkie and everything else, do you have a habit that you do religiously? Now, I know you used to have one record that just from exposure
hmm.
to. I know I have one. Mine is I sit with my coffee and I have prepared from the day before, usually the night before. I gather some reading material that I need to absorb, and that's the first thing I'm going to do the next day when I sit
Yep.
down to concentrate on something. So it's either a legal brief or it's articles. Like, I have gathered it the day before and I have it ready. So when I'm sitting there comfortable with my coffee, first thing, this is how I start my day, getting ready for something in the future that I'm going to do. Now, that's my hobby. This isn't my job, but I can tell you that that habit is the same as when I worked. That habit is the same as when I was wake up every morning before my tutors came when I was a kid. That habit has stayed with me my whole life. I've start most of my, unless I was having surgery or ill, that's what I was doing within an hour and a half of waking up every day.
Mm,
That was in some manner. Now, that doesn't, that I'm just using that as a point of the habit building, you know, that that something like that can give you a foundation, for keeping you going. So even when COVID hit and I got really, really sick and I couldn't do that, I knew I was better as soon as I was able to do that habit again, and I started doing that again. I knew I was heading in the right direction to recover. Do you know what I mean? Like, it gives you a
Mhm.
foundation. It gives you a brick, a
Mm.
brick in building a wall towards accomplishing thing. And I think most of us like have one. Reading
Yeah.
and massive observation. You mean about Newton? Yup. Yeah, gravity did come much later, Liam, but it all started then, you know.
Mm.
Yeah. Jin said he has a mindless way of filling his day. It's called working.
Mhm.
Most of us feel that way yeah, in the jobs that we have. That's why they say that, like, if you stay less bored and more moving forward creatively, if your job is something that you can find some joy in, like there's something about it that, and not all of us are blessed with that. We have to
No.
actively find the things that we like about it. But it is possible. Like, even if it's a mundane job back and forth, maybe you enjoy that afternoon break talking with people from all different backgrounds in different areas of life than you, and you're gathering information. Maybe you're a secret poet or something, and you're writing a great novel, and you're doing character research or something. Like, there's always something. I mean, there's always something you can apply as a small
Absolutely.
joy or a small blessing, even in the most mundane of situations. Would you say that that's kind of the key? That's
Mhm.
you to uh having the patience, like 50 did.
Yeah.
He
Trying to
worked.
find trying to find something about what you're doing that can essentially help you propel whatever you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yep, incremental, well, one day at a time, but it's ritual. Yes,
Mm.
ritual. You can find it in that. He had his food dropped off at the door. I got into that habit for takeaways too. You know what? Yes, Isaac Newton did. He didn't speak or deal with anyone, you know. And there was another example of someone who, oh, what was the name of the other writer? Thurston, oh, who
Um,
removed himself from society to get rid of stutters. He wanted to be a public speaker, and so he just ran with rocks in his mouth and talked,
yeah.
and did a lot of running and exertion exercises to learn controlled breathing so that he could be a better public speaker and get rid of his stutter. And he did it all on his own. That
Yeah,
was pretty
exactly.
amazing too, working towards it. But what he did was, he chose one thing to accomplish and then spent every day working on that one thing. Now, a lot of us, the problem is we don't have that luxury to be able to spend all day on one thing. Do you, Rekkr?
Nope.
No. Does anybody in the chat have the luxury of spending all day working on one thing? I don't think in modern society most of us would not be able to. Um, we have to find the balance, but that's why you concentrate on the habit building of doing something towards your goal or something towards your great pleasure every single day, in making these small building blocks towards it. Like 50 did when he was working the street, he treated it like a job. He treated it like most of us that have a job that we don't really want to do, but we got to fill our day with it. And he let his mind explore the future, and he made plans for the future. And he spent the time at work when he was doing all the things, all of the mental free time that he had, to make the plan, to figure out the best solutions for things, for moving forward for something he wanted to do. You know, that also was a key to me there, that not only just treating it like a job, showing up every day out of habit, being there consistently. Not only did that work for his hustler side, because that always works in business: consistency, exposure, being there all the time, being dependable. That works. But
Mhm.
but at the same time, he was still working on a future goal. you know
Exactly.
it Yeah, so to me, that was an example of how when we're all stuck in these boring routines that we have to do going to work. I mean, some of us are blessed with jobs that we like, and we find things that we love about it, and we go forward, and it's not really so bad. And that's what you want. You want it, like, it's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. And if you're judging yourself on that standard, you're going to be a failure no matter what.
And
But
to be honest, you wouldn't want it to be perfect, because if it was perfect, if it was perfect, you'd get really bored.
I am so
And to be
guilty of
honest,
that. Not only bored, I panic when things, like, I don't know what it is. Okay, gonna tell a little secret. Most people are gonna tell me to call it therapy after this, but if things start going really, really well, and I start relaxing and not like trying to accomplish something or anything, and I start chilling out a bit and relaxing, and just like everything's going really great, everything's going great. Then I get the drop of the other shoe syndrome, and I'm like, then I start panicking, waiting for the other shoe to drop, because it just can't stay like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, so I'm happy, I'm thrilled, everything's great, but I'm like, here it comes. Like, wait,
yep,
it's gonna come. And I don't know if
it's
anybody
too
else.
quiet.
Yeah. So yeah. Mhm.
Um,
What is it? Now I have a funny something that was unexpected. Is it best to describe? Let it blow your mind or something else? Yeah, exactly. It, one day at a time. I get it. I definitely get it.
mm,
But yeah, shall we I think for the examples, I think just everyone has their own personal example of what the book is trying to say here. What 50 Story said to us, about his tenacity, about his mettle, so to speak, of trying to fill that void with something constructive, you know.
yeah,
Um and then that's not to say that, like, I don't want to give the impression that we shouldn't have chill time, because the other thing is, you don't want to make moves about things, or just do things for the sake of doing them either. um we've
no,
learned through other chapters in the book that we have to be more strategic about how we're applying our energies going forward to accomplish our goals, and to keep our power, keep our center of power, our personal center of power, moving forward and
exactly,
always accomplishing what we need as an individual. That we have to be protective of that. So, like, it's not to say that you don't use some downtime, just because you need to recharge or this, or because, like, even when 50 wrote this book, life has changed a bit since then. Life is even more in 2025. We are bombarded with information and fast track, and it's even more stressful than it was when he did this book. Um,
exactly.
so I'm sure even 50 has changed a little bit in regards to this. Instead of being on the grind 24/7, I can guarantee he has to take that pause moment, you know. And I just think he's more selective on how he fills the pause. Instead of,
Yeah,
I doubt 50, unless it was research, I doubt 50 loses 3 hours a day to TikTok. I doubt it. I
yeah,
seriously doubt it. Unless he's doing research, because if he's doing music TikTok to see what's going on and what people are listening to, I could see him doing that. But that would be working towards gathering knowledge for what he is trying to accomplish, right? Or,
exactly.
or like, say he started a business on, another, he wants to make another type of drink beverage, and so he watches the TikTok videos that all of these influencers are putting out about the stuff, to see what they're doing and to see what their numbers are, see what the market is looking like I could see him doing that, but not just, you know
Not just mindlessly watching a
yeah
video on
yeah.
how
I
to tie 30 different knots,
or the ice bucket challenge, or the
or the
TikTok
ice
site.
bucket challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, or the TikTok psychic, or all those foodie people that are just like, doing gross stuff with food. I don't know, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
I know, it's just too much. But, like, so we do in this day and age, we do need downtime from all of this, from all of the stuff that gets thrown at us daily. Well, it's building a habit to disseminate it, to take ourselves away from it for a little bit and then do something for ourselves to keep fueling our power forward in our own goals that we want to accomplish. That is a key to success, being able to do that, being able to
Exactly.
ignore the clutter, that gets in our head, ignore the clutter that gets thrown at us, all of the distractions and the clutter that get thrown at us daily, depending on good solid habit that you can build. And it's never too late to build a habit. It only takes 5 days to make something consistent.
Hmm.
If you can do something routinely for 5 days, you have a very good chance of being able to do it for a very, very long time. I
Yep.
just, yep, I thought that was an old statistic from years ago that I learned, but I Googled it and it's still true today. It doesn't take very long to build a good, healthy habit, you know.
The hard part is just keeping it, because it takes less time to get out of the habit.
Yeah, it takes like what, 2 days, 2 or 3 days,
Yeah, 2 or 3
and
days or something like that.
and then it's harder to restart. So like
Hmm.
that's an important thing there. So like if you stop one day, that's great, but just get right back on it the next day. Don't beat yourself
Exactly.
up. Don't beat yourself up too much. Liam says that that he can tie like 30 knots. Great for camping and stuff. But they're talking about tying knots. How did that start, Liam?
Because I talked about watching videos on how to tie like 30 different knots.
Oh, okay. Because Liam said I can tie 30 different knots.
Or what's the other one? Those satisfying, the quote unquote satisfying videos where you see like um something like a machine working perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
or some sort of process being done really smoothly.
Right.
Eh,
Right.
There's a lot of those videos.
No. But and it's so easy to get lost in it. It's so easy
Oh,
to
it is so easy. It's
I
not
mean,
even funny how easy it is. It's just like it it's just like you open it for 30 seconds and somehow 2 hours disappears. You're just wondering where, what, how.
mhm, mhm.
I was
Mm. You
you know,
and you're shocked, right? And then do you
mm,
suffer the guilt? Do you suffer the guilt and shame? I
yep,
do.
and then you
I'm
feel
like,
guilty because you lost that time and you're not
mm-hmm,
gonna get it back, and it's like, "Oh god, you could have been putting that towards so many different things, so you lose another hour at least
mm-hmm.
um with scolding yourself that you didn't take advantage of the
Right.
time."
You just perpetuate the cycle. Now you're wasting more time
Mm,
feeling bad about something you should have done. I could have done this at that time. I should have did this. I should have did that. Meanwhile, still not doing it because you're
mhm,
beating yourself up about it. And I think that's the point. The point is like stop that. Just carry on. Just like pick up, carry on. The important part is moving forward. The important part is recognizing it in trying to change the bad habits and the patterns.
yep,
Well, uh shall we go on with some of the keys now?
yeah, I think that'll be a good idea.
I mean, I think we've got the example out there because just personally, the examples we all have of this. But the chapters are always set up now to try to give us keys to accomplish patience as a power, mastering the situation of learning everything around us and controlling it in order to be successful. Because remember, this whole book was how to actually accomplish success, how to actually pre- challenge ourselves through life to actually be successful. That it's not
Mm,
a given. It's not just the lucky few. It's not what you're born into or the education you have or your IQ. It's not any of that. This book, The 50th Law, is about anyone can get there. Anyone can get
Yep.
there. And this is how I saw it moving through the world. This is how 50 saw it moving through the world. And if you apply these things to keep your power and build your strength through focusing on your goal, it's actually like a blueprint. Everybody will do it a
Exactly.
little bit differently, but you've got to, focus in reality, right? You've focus in reality was one. Realism, right? Opportunism, learning when to be passive, when to be aggressive and when not, knowing your strength. What was the
Mm-hmm.
one? Um, each
What
step,
was it?
you know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost my moment into there for a second. But each step is meant to build on, like is about, like, understanding everything that's going around us, learning, being, but this one is the most important. Having the strength to be patient, to learn everything we need
Mm,
to do, to try to measure, to actually complete something all the way through, step
yes.
by step, to put up with the internal boredom that's going to happen and the tedium, that no matter how much we love something, how much as humans we love something or think we want to do it, the day-to-day grind of it will eventually get us to a point where, like, like, nah. And it's pushing through that is the
Yep.
difference between failure and success. Pushing through that, same thing. Okay. All right. Now let's drill it down to something that's not business. It's a little life oriented. Can I, Rekkr? Like, you know,
Absolutely.
let's take it down to a different goal. Personal relationships. Okay, the longer you're in a personal relationship, no matter how much you care about somebody, how great you think they are, they're the bee's knees. They are everything you ever thought. They're smart, they're funny, they're I don't know. They're everything you ever dreamed of. Like, I'm not talking knight in shining armor or anything here. I'm talking compatibility. In the beginning, you can't seem to see anything wrong with them. Everything's growing great. Well, say you get to like 3 or 4 years, okay? And all of a sudden they laugh one day and you're like, that's annoying as hell. That's what we call when you are so close and something is so routine, we automatically try to find fault in it because we are now taking things for granted. We're not noticing all the great things. We're hyper focusing on the little things. And this is actually one of the reasons for this is just how long a relationship has gone on.
Mm,
It's that you can expect everything that's going to happen every day. And
mhm.
it's become a routine. And so human nature is to push back on it. On board, you get bored. Now, some people approach that doing the wrong thing. They step out. Some people will even break up when they get at that point, thinking they're just not right for me, you know, instead of pushing
Mhm.
through. And I can tell you that I had been married for a long time and things happen in cycles. You you go up and down constantly and you fall in and out of that cocoon on a regular basis. It's the pushing through that gets you through. When people say, how did you actually make it to 30 years of marriage or 30 years of partnership? Even in business, being in partnership with the same person for 30 years, and getting to know all of their habits and this and that, you get to a point where, you know, you get to that 30 mark and somebody comes up to you and says, how did you do that? I ignored the little bullshit. I learned to pick my battles. I learned to push through. You know,
Mhm.
it, when you find yourself bored and you find yourself wondering why you're doing something, it's just not hitting you the way it did. The week before you were full of passion, and the next week you're not, and you can't really find a triggering event for it, like sales plummeted by $8 million, or the stock market crashed, or something as small as they didn't have my favorite cookie on the shelf. If you can't find the triggering
Okay, we can't go that far. What? That is a bit too
I'm
far.
using a personal example there because we've both been there, Rekkr.
Them cookies are
Those
good.
damn cookies aren't on the shelf, and we're like, now that just ruined my day. But you know what I'm talking about. But if you push through and you don't, what I'm trying to say is you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No.
There's that saying. You have a bad day. You have a bad week, even a bad month in a whole relationship. You don't throw all of that you worked for. And we're talking about these steps that you work through all the way to accomplish something. If you just stop, you fail. You have just wasted all of that time. Success is finding the way to get through that challenge of being bored out of your mind, thinking it's not going to work, being overly challenged, and just continuing through. And a way to get through that moment that's going to happen. It's going to happen raising children, personal relationships, going to college, starting a business, being in a business, restarting a career, retiring. It's going to happen constantly through your life. But if you find the way to get through that by habit, by these habits that you build on moving forward through something, remembering why you're there, remembering what you did, what you're going forward to, whatever it is, it's going to get you through. You got to be able to fall back on those habits to do it.
Exactly.
Does that make any sense, or did I take you too far? I mean,
No, I think you said that quite well.
Because I'm trying to bring it down from not just business, because the purpose of doing this is that this is a life lesson. This is not how to start your own business. This is not how to be a rapper or a business mogul or start your own water company. This is using these actual tools every day. Because what I see people failing at regularly on a daily basis is letting other things in other people take their power. Sap it right out of them. The lack of control of our own lives. This book is about building your power so you have control of your own life all the time, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what's going on in your personal situation. Not giving your power away, not without a fight. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I might be making it bigger than it is, but this is what the book meant from the very beginning. When I first read it, that's what the book said to me. Like, it's 2025, and this is something everybody can use.
Yep.
Because just turning on your computer these days and looking at internet news can sap your power away and feeling like nothing's ever going to change in this, that, and the other thing,
There are so many things that want your time. And the news is another one. That's another thing that we often lose time to. And it's even worse than TikTok because it's something that we feel is important, is always keeping up with the news.
Exactly. And so now we're going to get to the keys, because you're right, Liam. It is so easy to just stop, right? It's so easy to just stop in the middle of doing something. But does that feel good eventually? I mean, it might feel good in the moment because you release the pressure, you release all of the anxiety about what's going on, but does it feel good in the long run? Because as soon as you stop, it's like the end of it. Restarting again is not always easy. So as soon as you stop, it's kind of like a failure. It's the difference between, stopping and muddling through is the difference between success and failure. Okay. If you stop, you can't succeed. Just like, they say you got to be in it to win it, right? If you're not in the process of moving forward towards your goal, there's no way you're ever going to achieve it. That's just the way it is. As soon as you stop working towards your goal, you fail.
Exactly. A story doesn't write itself. A
Exactly.
pen won't write the story for you.
A video doesn't get made, conversations don't get had on their own, the buttons don't get pushed, keys don't get clicked, you know. So let's talk about those keys to fearlessness, in
Mhm.
being successful and reveling in our own power. And all of man's troubles come from not knowing how to sit still alone in a room. Blaise Pascal. Can you tell? You can read the five, and then we'll go on to the next slide.
Okay. So the following are 5 principal strategies for developing proper relationship to process. The first one is progress through trial and error. The second one, mastering something simple. Third, internalize the rules of the game. Fourth, attune yourself to the detail. And last but not least, rediscover your natural persistence.
Mm-hmm. And mostly number five is where I was going, but and a combination of number one. But now let's drill it down a little bit for everybody. Do you want to do like every other one?
Sure.
Okay. So you do this one. I talked for a long time. You get to talk. I want to hear your voice.
Progress through trial and error. Learning and growth comes not from avoiding mistakes, but by making them and adjusting fast. One of the examples is SpaceX, because early SpaceX. Who remembers early SpaceX?
Boom. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
SpaceX.
They were spectacularly explosive.
There was variety.
Not in a good way.
They did it at all different stages. Like, yeah. So there was at least variety. Yeah.
And they persisted through it, through all the failures. They learned from it. And now they have rockets that they literally catch on a tower. That is crazy. That level of precision is nuts at that size. And that's important. And the way that we achieved it, the way that anyone can achieve anything is to make mistakes regularly. Obviously, it's not like you're not going to be going out and being like, oh man, I wonder what happens if I make a mistake and turn left when this corner says turn right. That's not the mistakes we're talking about. Those are big mistakes that shouldn't be taken regularly.
Yes, not the common sense. Yeah.
It's like, it's not being afraid of making mistakes, not being afraid of making mistakes in your learning to develop them, to develop like what you're actually doing. Like, for instance, if you build guitars, like maybe you make a really weirdly shaped one that no one likes. That's a mistake. You learn from it. No one likes that shape. Everyone thinks that guitar looks too weird. So you make one that looks more appealing. You learn from that. Or making mistakes in, like, for instance, in me, study. I'll make a million mistakes while I'm working on a question, and I do my best to learn from them. I don't always, but I try, and I take the time to try and learn what the mistake is and how the mistake happens. One of the things that I hate the most is when something breaks and there's no way, and then it fixes itself randomly. It's like it's a mistake that fixes itself, but you don't know how you made the mistake, so you can't avoid it.
And
that's terrifying.
because you've got no information on the error. You've got no
Mm,
data to go by to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's so frustrating. That's so
yep.
frustrating. Um, I get that because, like it says, like you you can't be afraid of failure. It's data, it's
Nope.
information, it's one step. Failure is still one step towards your goal. You were in the
Exactly.
process of doing something, and if something failed, it's still one step towards what you are trying to accomplish. So it's not a total failure, it's not defeat. It's learn, it's learn from it. There's a lesson in all of it, whatever it is, information, response of other people, whatever. It, just like it says, analyze it and move forward. Use the data and go again
There's a
and
there's a
again
good
and again.
saying that sort of, if I remember correctly, sort of goes, "A master has failed more times than the apprentice has attempted."
Mm.
If it's probably I'm probably wording it poorly, but basically, yeah, someone who's succeeded at something has probably made more mistakes than someone trying to attempt it.
Hmm. Yep. And it's not only like people we look to, we feel are so far away from us, like these figureheads. It's not all the scientists, and this is the everyday process. Like this is even cooking in your own kitchen, like when you're learning to cook and everything like that.
Mm,
This is like, being, you're trying to change something up and you add a different ingredient and it works or it doesn't work, or it tastes right or it doesn't taste right, or it, it's could be that simple. It's like the failure of the wrong paint color on the wall. Are you going to sit there and live with it for the rest of your life? No, you're going to find a better one and repaint your wall in your house, right? you know
exactly.
all of these small things the same. It's just, don't be afraid to just keep going, keep going, keep going. You don't stop. When you stop, that's the true failure. Well, we have even more examples in SpaceX, because fearless individuals learn by doing. They fail
Mm,
fast, adapt
adapt
quickly.
quickly and move forward stronger.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So,
Like
so
Bill Gates
mhm,
used used failed global health initiatives to refine the Gates Foundation strategies, showing smart failure leads to smart progress. Just like
mhm.
I said, failing, yeah, failing and using it to succeed.
And the Gates Foundation started uh, with a goal of vaccinating children around the world against curable diseases, like polio and measles and stuff in countries that didn't have access. And do you know they couldn't do it? They had to learn a way. They would bring free vaccines, and they couldn't get anyone to show up to get them. They had to work with the governments and all for advertising and political issues and religious issues in all of these countries, because here they are trying to give away millions, billions in free vaccines to an underprivileged country, and no one is showing up. Can you imagine these
Exactly.
these entrepreneurs, like, thinking they're doing good for the world, and nobody wants to take the free stuff? Like, it was just, yeah.
Say,
So
hey, free
yeah,
money. Nope,
yeah.
I don't trust you.
Hmm. Yeah. I'll do number three, Trevor Noah, media and
Mhm.
education example. His early stand-up, he was a comedian in hosting gigs, doing little sitcom stuff. They weren't very polished, but he refined his voice through global experimentation and cultural learning. He's not from America, okay? And he ended up, by doing that, he ended up with the top television, late night television show. He ended up with Jon Stewart's show out of nowhere. Nobody knew who this guy was, but he just had it. He just had it. He had a universal vote, from looking at cultures all over. He had a different voice, and he revived the show. He's still there. So that was quite the accomplishment. Um, I'll let you do the music.
And then next is Cardi B. If anyone remembers Cardi B when she first started, she was an interesting person. She was a very interesting uh, 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 subject.
Social media
She started
personality.
off as a social media personality, and then learn the music industry on the fly. She failed publicly. She failed spectacularly with a lot of stuff that she did. But then she used it to refine her brand. And now, like, when you talk about pop stars or music stars, Cardi B is up there. Cardi B is like up there with a lot of the like Rihanna
Mhm. Yeah.
and um Megan Thee Stallion and a lot of the other bigger names.
Mhm. Yeah, she's been doing a lot of stuff with other people like Megan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yep. But yeah, she was a meme. She felt so bad that she was a very popular. She was a meme. Yeah. Uh, uh, Then we have George W. Bush, who, after early business and political failures, he recalibrated, learned from his defeats, and ultimately navigated to two presidential victories, showing how setbacks can build long game success. Still a voice
Yes.
in politics. But yeah, he did not have it too easy either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and these are people we look at now and we say, like, they're there, right? Like, they're there, and not knowing the struggle that they went through to get there, like all of the attempts and how long it took. Like, we just see the end result because, now they're famous, they're figureheads, they're right up there in the top of their fields. But they too had to go through the process. So,
Mm-hmm.
number two is master something simple. The definition is to develop deep discipline by committing to a basic skill, task, or routine and doing it repeatedly with intention. This is when I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about habits. Like, this is how you accomplish stuff with deep habit. An example is one of Rekkr's favorite is J. Cole, who's a rapper,
Yep.
and he started by mastering simple, self-produced mixtapes on his own before evolving into a globally respected lyricist and producer. Everybody wants him
Mm.
on their albums now. Everybody wants his input is for lyricists. And he's a pretty good producer now. He's probably doing more stuff behind the scenes than we even know.
Yep.
And it all started. Yeah.
He's also a good example of imi- eh, imitate before you innovate.
Mm-hmm.
He, from what I remember, he would copy down a lot of other artists' lyrics and stuff like that to sort of say, well, if I'm going to write good, then I should be copying what what good artists write.
Mm-hmm. And know why it was good. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And then how
And
you
that's
cheat. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
uh, and that's how a lot of really why I mean, there's a lot of sayings that actually just revolve around that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
smart people copy, geniuses steal. It's
Fake it till you
it's
make it.
fake it till you make it. They're all variations on imitate before you innovate. The copying what you want to
Mm-hmm.
achieve it.
That goes all the way back to learning about the situation in what it is you want to accomplish, learning it from A to Z, like 50 said,
Mm,
sitting back and actually, before you try to change it, before you try to make it yours, before you try to be creative about it, you need to learn the process, the whole process from A to Z. And that's how you can do it, by looking at who's doing it, how they're doing it, why they're doing it, the way they do it, and dismantling it. That's part of the process. And he's shown that repeatedly, you know, not necessarily through music, through, looking at how people write lyrics, but you see what I mean. I mean, it's just like
mhm,
he tells us to be aware of everything, to sit back, learn everything first before you go in. He did it himself in the music industry. Just in that story you told, he spends his free time talking to everyone in the business, in the whole building, all about what they
exactly.
do there, how they do it, all about marketing, producing, production, PR, publicity, everything. He talks and learns, he absorbs everything that's going on around him with that industry so that he could do it himself before he decided to do anything himself about anything. Um, so how do you achieve it is you pick a core task in your field, like writing a daily page or learning chords or editing a short video, and repeat it daily until it's effortless. Build momentum by locking in habits. You just build on
Yes.
it. And you
And
do this music practice all the time. Liam,
yes.
that's what we're talking about here too. Yeah. You just
And it's something that I sort of try to remind myself is, like, no matter what you're learning, the important thing is to implement what you're learning, because to not implement what you've practiced is almost worse than not practicing at all, because it's mindless and you've literally wasted time in many cases if you're not implementing or utilizing what you're practicing somehow. It's Practice is there to give you a basis to propel off of, and if all you're doing is, well, it's like essentially getting stuck in building a strong foundation. You can build a strong foundation. It's all well and good building that strong foundation for your house, but if you're only spending if you're spending years just building a foundation, where's the house? Like,
yeah.
you you great, you've built a really nice foundation, and you just that's it. There's no house.
And exactly the sentence here is exactly what you're talking about by going deep, not wide. Just like
Mhm.
master a small task or skill completely before expanding. You get that foundation down, then you move on and build the rest of the house, right? Well,
Mhm.
mhm. You want to switch off on examples? Okay.
Sure. So, we got the numbering a bit weird.
Do we?
Yeah,
Why?
it starts with 2.
Yes, it does, because that's one J. Cole.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Blonde moment.
yeah. That's okay, Blondie. The other slide was like that too. Yeah,
Yep.
it's okay. Yeah.
Billie Eilish built a minimalistic music empire from bedroom production, proving depth and clarity and style beats out complexity.
Hmm.
Yeah, she proved it. She proved
Hmm.
that, like, a minimalist, um, yeah, a minimalist style actually works really well. And in fact, even a very plain style, because even though she does have songs that are much more complex, the ones that seem to resonate the most are actually even more simple than a lot of very basic songs. Um, like, one, for instance, was used in the Barbie movie. What Was I Made For? No, what was it? Um, yeah. What Was I Made For? I think I
Yeah, that
can't remember.
in the
Yeah.
Barbie, what was I made for? It
Mm,
was it was very poignant. That really touched me. But it was very simplistic. It was very emotional, but it didn't get clouded with all the bells and whistles or anything.
mm,
Straightforward melody, really good words, haunting.
mm.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Good quality lyrics. Sticking to what you're trying to convey, and just not a lot of extra bells and whistles. It was
There,
pretty
there
simple.
is
Yeah.
there is complexity in simplicity,
Yeah.
as if that makes sense.
And they say sometimes simple is better because it ages better. It goes through
Hmm.
time, you know. Um, yeah, no, she's definitely iconic. She's made her mark.
Oh, absolutely.
Number three is Malala Yousafzai, and she is listed as education because this was a young woman who started advocating in her country, which was not allowing women into education anymore. They had started a backslide due to a religious extremist movement that was taking over government in society in general, in regards to women of the faith, of the Muslim faith, having to wear, completely cover themselves now. No more education, nothing like that. And from the age of 14, she started advocating that women deserved education, to be active participants in their own country, to help move their country forward, that they could, be an active process, be involved in society on a more equal basis, and be able to accomplish things. She started that at 14 years old. To her credit, she was so active about it in such a voice, and she did it in a non-compromising way. Like, she wasn't aggressive about it. We're not talking like big, huge uh, we're not, marches or things like that. There was no, like, breaking into offices, nothing like this. Okay, it was all peaceful and informative, and just speaking out. And it was so powerful. She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2017 when she was 17 years old, and she has stuck to her message consistently. She's now a 24-year-old woman who does speeches and advocacy all over for other countries also, in regards to women's education, in regards to, the religious aspect of it, and why it's really not a bad thing or against the religion. And she's made her mark, and
Hmm.
even though that was years ago, she's still out there, and she's still talking on it, and she's still a force. She's still an advocate for women's education there. She has made some changes. They have allowed in many other countries to have women are back in university. Women are allowed to continue education, so there's that.
Exactly.
Oh, you're gonna like this one.
And then there's Kendrick Lamar, who perfected his lyrical style on underground tracks before applying it to layered concept heavy albums. Once again, like, this is where, doing starting with like simple things. Maybe you're not writing an entire concept album, or you're not writing a 300-page novel, or, well, that would be more like a novelle, like 1,000-page. You're not writing Game of Thrones if you haven't at least written some short stories. I
Yes.
don't believe there is anyone out there who has just made a masterpiece
Right.
ever.
Right. And that actually goes right with Neil Gaiman too. Like, that's the same story. Is a
Hmm.
big novels, everything, and just you had to start small. He started with comics and short stories until he perfected that and expanded out. That's
Exactly.
just saying. Next one's yours.
Internalize the rules of the game. It's learning the unspoken system, politics, and structures of your environment so you can move skillfully within them. A good example is actually Barack Obama, um, who understood the inner workings of the US politics and used that knowledge to rise and negotiate powerfully. I mean, he wasn't he one of the youngest presidents?
He was one of the youngest. He was also, when he first started, he was a young senator. The youngest senator voted in, and he only served 2 years before they tapped him for the presidency. Absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah, he broke barriers there. Well, he learned quick the inner workings, and he had a lot of opposition against him. He had to learn, how everything worked behind the scenes, because he really didn't have a lot of help. He had a lot of things against him. When he was president, his house was his Congress and Senate was actually the opposite party, and moving things forward was very difficult. But he did. He did what he could.
exactly.
Yeah, and he is an amazing negotiator. If you talk to foreign countries that dealt with him, he gets what he wants. Yeah, and not aggressively though, just by knowing the
Mm.
situation. Yeah. Yeah. He really did, Mrs. Cassandra. He's an awesome
Y-
speechwriter. Do you know he
Yeah.
wrote most of them himself? Yeah.
Yeah, I was quite surprised when I read that. Most presidents or most people in power often get other people who their job is literally speech writing to do it.
Mhm. And that is when you're not used to publicly speaking or a good communicator, it's an excellent idea. But I did read an article once where he had said he does use speechwriters to help him get like what they're going to talk about and the facts and everything. But when it comes to the voice of it, when it comes to him having to say what he wants about something, he needs to write it because it is him putting it out there. He doesn't want a canned version of what the people want to hear. He wants the
Mm,
people to know he's saying it himself. You know what I mean?
Drake
And
could
then
learn a thing from him.
his connection to the people into what he wants to say. And I think you can do both. You can have speech writers, but then he would edit them, cultivate them. There were times he wrote it all himself, like his inaugural speech is him. He wrote it, and it's one of the best. I mean, I absolutely. I have a copy of it, like to this day. I printed that out and gave it to every young person in my life to read. Oh, it is an amazing speech. But still, there's a combination you can use. But he felt it was important to take control of his voice to the people.
Mm,
Yeah. hmm You're going to read
yeah.
the achieve.
Oh, uh, and how to achieve it? Observe, ask questions, and study the insiders. Learn who makes decisions, how power flows, and what the true incentives are in your space. Then adapt. Don't rebel blindly.
hmm
And that last little bit, don't rebel blindly, is something I think we have a huge issue with in general at the moment, where
hmm
people would simply rebel against something they felt is an injustice without even having a further plan to either fix it or improve it in some way.
hmm That's it. That's the difference between what you just said. There is the difference between rhetoric and advocacy. If you want to know the
Hmm.
difference, a true advocate is speaking out about something they see is wrong, but in a constructive way with ideas to how to help fix it, ideas to try to move it forward, some kind of plan, some kind of thing, advocating for the change in what's wrong. Rhetoric is pushing on it, saying it's wrong, making fun of it, using it as a point of context for whatever content you're putting out, and not doing a goddamn thing about it. You're not contributing to helping the problem, moving the problem for them. You are now becoming part of the problem. Is the
Hmm.
difference between rhetoric and advocacy. Advocacy is to help move the problem forward and out into becoming not a problem, to make the change. Okay. Rhetoric is pointing at it and laughing. And like, I don't really have a lot of respect for rhetoric. Can you tell?
Mm, a
if
little
it's
bit.
not, if it's not, if you're not actually contributing to dealing with the issue and coming up with some ideas and actually constructively saying, hey, I noticed this is like this and I don't really like it, and what are, like, I've been thinking about what kind of things can I personally do about it, or you can personally do about it, or wouldn't it be nice if the system did this about it. At least doing positive injection of the change in the process instead of just the point and laugh thing, which really serves no purpose except for self agenda and qualifies for rhetoric,
Mm,
qualifies for noise, qualifies for
yep.
all that stuff in our head that we don't need. Like,
It it's
I hate about
it's
it.
sort of like how it we see it actually very often with people who do like political uprisings in countries
Mhm,
where you'll often see them usurp a leader
mhm,
and then they just simply do the exact same thing as the person that they usurped,
Exactly.
with
No
just
change.
with a different face, no
Yeah.
change.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I understand protesting to bring an issue to light, but when that person picks up the bullhorn to talk about the issue, the one that gets on the podium and actually talks about it, isn't it more productive if they're actually talking about the things you can do to help resolve the issue instead of
Instead
just
of just chanting
yelling and
along
bark?
one
Right.
thing,
Exactly. Exactly.
not
So,
saying any
mhm,
particular current movement, but a lot of
yeah.
them.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine. Like, I'm glad you put it the way that you did. You did a much better job than me because I get a little annoyed about it. So many people call themselves an advocate for situations and they're doing nothing about the situation. And that's not advocacy. That's rhetoric and agenda. And I have a great distaste for it. And you
Those are
know,
called. I like to call those people feel-good protesters. They
oh,
protest. They
mhm.
protest because they feel guilty for something,
you
and
wa- you want to know another word for it on YouTube?
mm,
Grifting.
grifting. Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, just straight up grifting.
Oh, I'm
They
just gonna
just
be
do it.
honest about it. They do it for agenda. They do it for
Mhm.
themselves. They're doing it only for their own personal agenda, and they'll take on a big topic, okay, that is people really want to hear about, and they're just grifting it to death. They're offering no solutions, no real information, no real positive anything about it. And it's the one part about YouTube I can't stand.
Mhm.
Uh, I just can't. Yeah. And grifting doesn't necessarily mean they're making money on it. It's just the clicks and views, the attention, whatever they're getting from it. They're just grifting it. They're sapping the life out of the situation and demeaning it. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
often you'll find movements that do that kind of thing end up being hated, and in fact do worse for the movement that they're working
Mm-hmm.
on.
Okay,
A
which
very good example, for instance, is Let's Stop Oil. How many
oh,
people have heard of Let's Stop Oil, actually? I know I have.
I
And
think
one
everybody
thing,
has. And
yeah,
who has a positive notion about them? Hardly anyone.
and there,
It's all
and
negative.
but nearly everyone has also probably spent a large amount of time watching the videos of them getting absolutely abused, and no one actually feels any sympathy for them. And that's the thing that you really want to
And
avoid is.
yep, and here's the shame because Let's Stop Oil is actually a good concept. We all agree
Mm,
that global warming and the environmental issues are important, are they not? Right?
yep.
But here they made a mockery of it with the rhetoric,
Hmm.
with the
They
just
let their rhetoric and they let their rhetoric basically take over. They essentially lost sight of what they were trying to do, which was trying to get. Well, it's basically what you're trying to do in any sort of movement is you're trying to get people on your side. And
mhm,
instead of getting people on their side, they actively made it hard to even want to back them. It
yeah,
they
yeah,
in like they made people basically want to do the complete opposite.
mhm. Like, I get the idea that, like, some genius sat there and said, like, "Wow, we're trying to let them know that the environment needs to be protected, and we want to stop emissions. So let's go stop traffic. Let's go stop traffic on the busiest hour of day in a 5-lane, highway somewhere. Let's just go stop the traffic for a while and get our message out there that this has to be." And it's like that is not the way to do it because now you've caused everybody personal harm. They don't care what your message is. Like, even though emissions is a big issue and it needs to be addressed, that wasn't the
Mhm.
way to do it. That wasn't constructive. Like, that was just ridiculous. Like, I
They
wonder
hurt their cause more than they actually
don't do you
helped
ever
it.
wonder what that strategy meeting was like when they all got together and decided to do that? Because it's a consistent
You
plan.
know
It's
you
what
know
they
what?
do. Like, I'm
You
just like,
know
w- w- man, I'm just like,
I
wow.
so so okay, I'm gonna say something. It's completely tinfoil hat, and like you can laugh at me or whatever, but hang on. If I had some tinfoil, I'd actually make a hat and wear it right now. But with how they handled everything and with how they've acted,
Mhm.
in my head, I just want to believe that the people that were essentially the heads of Just Stop Oil were actually oil advocates, and that was their big plan to like get more people um to like oil and to want more oil. Essentially, I guess you'd call it big oil. Put the whole thing together to make people absolutely rage against any sort of environmental protesters.
Hmm.
I,
Well,
I know
I'm
it's
sure
not true.
I'm
I know
sure
it.
they're happy about it, but I doubt they put the effort into
Oh,
doing it, man.
I highly doubt they thought that they
Yeah,
did that.
yeah.
They like planned
But
that out.
yeah,
But
but it did actually
it
work in
makes
that
so much
way.
sense.
It does
It,
work
it,
in that way that
it
people just
yeah.
don't want to hear about it anymore because of how they did it and what they were doing. I mean, ambulances aren't getting through. People are losing their jobs because they keep showing up late. Like it was horrible. And
Mhm.
they turned the people against themselves. Like whatever point they were trying to make, you know. But back to knowing the rules of the game, which obviously they didn't. Okay,
Mhm.
'cause, fearlessness means knowing the structure so well you can move within it strategically or bend it to your will. They did not do their research. I'll say
Nope.
that. Okay. You want to go over some of these? You want?
So, Michelle Obama navigated political optics, race, and gender with awareness. She used the system's expectations to gain trust and then speak freely.
And she had to sit back at first as first lady until she
Mhm.
could get the ropes because she wasn't like accepted right away. It was different. But here in America, ever since Eleanor Roosevelt, the first lady is expected to actually have some kind of impact on social injustice or some mission, some project, something she brings forward to the country in service to the country while she's there. She's no longer the plate organizer and drape orderer, although she still has to do all of that, all the parties, all of that, still all her responsibility. But now they're actually expected to stand for something, to become, the figurehead of some type of project or mission. They have their own office, they have their own staff, the whole schedule, everything, and agenda, and they're expected to work every day towards this goal. And she did hers in child education. She worked a lot in education, things like that, in policies, no child left behind, making sure kids are fed, making sure kids get early intervention, all of that kind of stuff. She focuses on the children of America to grow
Mhm.
educated adults that could actually be good citizens and move forward and be good for our country. That was mostly her focus. But it took a while. She had to sit back, and that's where the internalize the rules of the game came in. There was a lot of push on her. This woman was ridiculed more than any public figure I've seen the first 2 years that they were in office. It was
Mhm.
disgusting, the things that they said about her. And they didn't even know her. Well,
Yep.
she had to learn all that and pick her moment and then wait for the opportunity. And I had to choose whether to be aggressive or not in how she came out. She did a good job. I think she read 50's book. I really do. I think she read it.
Yep.
She did a good job at it. Um, how about Lin Manuel Miranda, Hamilton? Who doesn't remember Hamilton hitting, the actual
Hamilton was
musical
huge.
history and rap collide in the most entertaining, enjoyable way. Fun, energetic, modern. Like, it was amazing. And he got so many awards for it. Well, he studied the history of music theater well before. And then he
Mhm.
re-entered in then he had the basics. He had a good foundation in history, Indian music, before he re-engineered it through Hamilton using some of the traditions and then turning it upside down. He had to have a good foundation first in what the rules were. He had to know theater. He had to know music theater. He had to know what he was doing before he could do something that groundbreaking. And it was, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it beat out rap albums on
Yep.
Billboard's top 10, like all of the performances of it. So, I'd say it was pretty monumental. It was Broadway.
Exactly.
Mm.
And Oprah Winfrey understood the rules of daytime TV and leveraged emotional storytelling within the system to build a multimedia empire. I mean, who? I don't think. Everyone knows Oprah. Like, when you talk about someone a daytime television host who's like admired, it's Oprah. Like, when you talk about generosity, there's like Oprah gets used as an example.
And she started as a anchor on a news station, a very small, and that was like the biggest job she ever thought she got. She thought she made it when she got that job, but she learned the business, and look what she did, right? I mean, she probably never have to work another day in her life, like 10 years ago.
Oh,
she built an empire, yeah. But she learned the rules of television, like quick, and it wasn't easy. Yeah. The next one is
you get a car. You get a car. Everyone gets a car. Exactly.
Hey, she's a marketing genius, is she not? I mean, come on. Like, people remember that. You've probably never even watched Oprah, and you know that happened. Tell me that's not marketing genius. That just tells you what a phenomenal it was and what impact she had on daytime television. I know you weren't. Like, look at you, Rekkr. Were you sitting home watching Oprah? I don't think so. I'll bet you never even seen an episode. Nothing. You know her because of her impact on society and her marketing genius in her building of the empire, right? So that speaks volumes right there.
Exactly.
She would be tickled pink did a man in his 30s did definitely from New Zealand sit there and knew that happened on her show. Like, that's success right there. Like, seriously, exactly. I'm giggling because I'm like, that's it. That's definitely the mark of success. You're not a fan, Liam, because you didn't get a car? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, the next one is Colson Whitehead, and he's an American author. And some of you may not have read him, but he's known for bringing the issues of race and the history of what has happened into very digestible versions of fictional stories and novels. And he got the Pulitzer Prize in 2020 for a sequel to his book, The Underground Railroad, which was a fictional depiction of what was happening during that time. And the Underground Railroad, for those of you who don't know, was an underground kind of process for traveling slaves during the transition from freedom to not, to get them out of places where slavery was still kind of legal to the freedom of the North without being known. Because if really bad things would happen to you. The slaves would be killed, and the white landowners and farmers who were assisting them would also be tried against the government, because certain states at this time during the transition still had it as legal. But the Underground Railroad was a way that this assistance of people to freedom was happening. And it's all about that time, but it's done in such a fictional kind of storytelling way. And he did get the Pulitzer Prize for the sequel of it, The Nickel Boys. I recommend you guys, if you're interested in that part of history, to read them, because it's much more digestible in a personal kind of way to understand the climate of what was going on at the time and get like more of a feel for it. But he used, American history, literary forms to expose racial injustice, subverting from within the canon. In other words, writing from personal perspective of how he sees things, but he knew the rules of the game. You know what I mean? Like, he's got the history foundation of it, and he's not going outside of it. He's not making it too opinion oriented. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So he was a good one for that. So number 4.
Attune yourself to the details. The path to mastery is built on your sensitivity to the tiny, overlooked things others miss. Example: Toni Morrison. Her pro that
Prose.
her prose was refined word by word. Her storytelling revealed a mastery of emotional and structural nuance. How to achieve it? Slow down, look closer, study the patterns, textures, and feedback in your work. Practice deep observation of both craft and people.
Yep. And she wrote, when they say emotional, she wrote beloved.
Mm.
Am I sponsored, Mrs. Cassandra? By who? No, not at all. Why would I be sponsored?
Oh,
I don't know.
the Tony. Isn't Toni Morrison also someone else, like a life coach as well?
No, that's Toni. This is Toni Morrison. You're thinking Tony Robertson.
Oh, I'm
Tony
thinking of
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh no,
I
if you see ads that say that I'm sponsored, I'm not sponsored by whatever the ad is. Sometimes YouTube uses my videos as ads in other people's videos. Never mind. I'm not sponsored by anybody. That may mean like YouTube sponsored the ad to show it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sponsored by anyone, Mrs. Cassandra, but I do believe that YouTube is helping me in some aspects with the algorithm and with that new advertising program that they have. I have heard people have sent me clips of seeing my videos in other people's videos as an ad.
But
Yeah.
I mean, if 50 wants to sponsor us doing the
Yes,
series,
yes.
we'd
What
absolutely
What
be
was the
for it.
ad for? I'll contact those people and say, if you're going to say I'm sponsored, like sponsor me, dude. Like, where's my check? Where's my
Exactly.
check? Where's my
Where's
check?
my money?
Where's my money? I'm going to be proactive about that one. Okay. So, you want to tell us how to achieve this? Or did you already?
I did. But
Oh,
I'll
sorry.
say it again. Slow down, look closer, study the patterns, textures, and feedback in your work. Practice deep observation of both craft and people.
Mm, that's how you tell good stories.
Exactly.
Oops. Okay. So, more examples that we have. Mastery comes from the ability to notice what others ignore, details, or the fingerprint of excellence.
Yep.
And we have
Neil
some.
deGrasse Tyson,
Mm-hmm.
excellent scientist, meticulously translates scientific ideas into accessible content by focusing on phrasing, cultural tone, and clarity. He's one of the few incredibly intelligent scientists out there who you could say is a science communicator as well and
Mm-hmm.
does it well.
He's a great communicator on any level. He's very relatable. He makes a way. This the third option with example was Phoebe Bridgers. Many of you may not have heard about her, but she's an indie artist, an American folk writer, or known for her haunting, hyper detailed lyricism. She crafts emotional narratives from subtle images and phrases. She has a way of writing her lyrics in imagery to try to, you can actually visualize it, and then the actual imagery actually emotes the emotion that she's trying to convey. It's quite a talent. But she has a way of learning how people react to certain words and imagery, and so that's how she gets herself with the details. She puts fine details. Like, what was the example I was telling you about, right, Rekkr? She's got that one song in the end where she's sitting in a car driving and she's describing a storm that is going on outside, like the lightning, and she's describing very visually all of the things going outside of the car while she's driving,
Hmm.
while she's actually singing about the end of a relationship as this all is going on. And you get like the whole thing. It's very visual, and she very like gets into the details of color and sound and all of that, and so that you actually see and feel it while you're listening to the song. It's kind of cool. But
Mm.
yeah.
Yo-Yo Mama, Yo-Yo Ma,
Hmm.
his technical cello mastery system stems from
Stem.
decades of attention to tonal nuance, breadth, and composition. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, a lot of classical music requires an understanding of the smaller details of it. It's not just simply playing notes or playing what is written in front of you. It's how you um it's understanding how to make it emotional. uh,
Hmm.
a lot of music, if you don't understand how to make it emotional or impactful, it you could have some of the most emotional music out there, but if it sounds boring, then no one's going to be entertained by it.
And that tonal nuance is your emotional connection sometimes to the piece or the music, the feel of it, so to
Mm,
speak, right? In When you think about it, some of the most successful artists out there, the reason we love them, the reason they are so popular, is you can see their connection to what they're doing. Like you can,
exactly.
they're not just a practice classical pianist just playing it rigidly key by key the way it needs to be played. You see them
Mm,
feeling it and moving with it and like actually part of it. Does that make any sense? Like,
yep.
and I think
Yeah.
that that is from concentrating on those details, like really getting into the whole essence of it. Concentrating on that, you can see the
Hmm.
difference. Mm. The next one, some of you may know and some of you may not, but Maria Kondo, organization person who built a global movement by noticing emotional and spatial details that others overlook in everyday life. And she was the one who actually teaches us about all the clutter around us and how to actually make a process to go through it, about having only things that are very useful that we use all the time or that bring us joy surrounding us, because it makes for a better life, less anxiety, less stress. We all tend to hold on to things and have a bit of clutter in our lives. But she actually marketed that the attention to details in her environment. She translates that attention to detail to actually within your own personal space and environment. She's actually contracted by companies now to build good workflow businesses to where people are happy to be there, but actually very productive. And she tries to translate all of that into everyday life. It's more than just cleaning out your closet, is what she thinks.
Hmm.
Well, okay. Rediscover
And
your natural persistence. Okay, go ahead.
mhm.
Sorry.
Definition: you were born with the ability to stick with what excites you, reclaim that inner drive even when it's hard. An example, of course, is 50 Cent. After being shot and dropped by his label, he kept producing music independently and building a massive comeback on his own terms. How to achieve it? Reconnect with what fuels you emotionally. Remind yourself why you started. Build resilience through consistency, even when motivation fades. And
Hmm.
this one is probably the hardest thing to do,
And
because
yep.
it's
Hmm.
so easy to just sit down and just not do what you want to be doing, because it's who doesn't like a good nap or three or four,
Hmm.
or just not doing something.
And isn't what we were talking about earlier with the
Mm,
boredom, even when like relationships and in progress in building a business or having a job, and you get to that point where you're wondering why you're doing it, like because it's becoming dull a little bit. You got to
mm,
remember why you started it. You remember what you felt like in a love story. You remember all of the things you fell in love with a person for. You know, when that
mm,
when that giggle that happened annoys the f out of you. You have to
mm,
remember. You have to remember, and you got to start building the things to start small habits, like making the effort. Make a date night once a week. Life gets busy. Do something you guys used to do together all the time that you both have in common that you really enjoy. Even if it's just watching anime, even if it's just like making a dinner together, you know.
Exactly.
And I hate to bring it down to the personal, but sometimes that's what people relate to more than they do the big life issue of it. But
Mm,
it's that simple, and you can translate this into anything. Moving forward, starting a business, succeeding in the business you already have, getting over the doldrums and re-energizing and revamping something you're already doing. I have to remind myself regularly, this is just a hobby, what I do here, out here on the internet. And I remind myself often why I started my channel, to keep me focused and to keep me moving. Because sometimes it gets to be a pain in the butt. Like, okay, some of you know me pretty well. And when I'm doing a trial and I got to get up every day for 8 hours and listen to a trial over and over, 5 days a week for more than a week, like that's tedium. That is not my normal routine. It is not something that is the most pleasurable part of what I do. Do I enjoy it? Yes, there are parts that I really love about it. Is it work? Absolutely. Do I have to remind myself why I love it? Absolutely. I do. And I keep at it, but it keeps me doing it. The point I'm mentioning it is that it keeps me doing it because I have to, I remind myself why I'm doing it and what I love about it. You know what I mean? Because I'm telling you, when Alessi goes on for 2 days on the same cross examination and not one single question of any merit came out, it's rough. And some of you know what I'm talking about here. If you're following the retrial with me, some of you understand it's rough. But that reminding yourself, building the resilience through consistency to keep checking in with yourself, remind yourself, and keep yourself motivated
mhm.
moving forward. It's important. How do you do it, Rekkr?
Uh,
With university, because that's the
with
hardest thing with
university,
university. Yeah, let's
I
just say with
struggle.
university.
I'm not even gonna lie. I struggle. Some days, well, a lot of days I'll find myself with an intense intention to do something, and I will end up not being able to do it. Not um uh but how I do it, I just I just got to remember at that it's it's going to pay off. It's
Mhm,
going to I'm going to be able to do far better with the information and with the learning that I've done and
mhm,
and put myself into a much more comfortable position if I focus on actually studying and getting the work done than
mhm.
if I just sit back and watch the world go by.
No, it's like to get a better job, right? To have better control
Mm,
of your time, to get a better job so that you don't need two jobs for a
mm,
cost of living or anything, so that you can do things that you're really passionate about, right? So,
exactly.
y- you
So I
know,
have energy, yeah. So I have energy to do what I want to do.
hmm which most of us know is music, you know.
Mhm.
So you might as well just say it. If you don't get a job that pays the bills and something that you can use that's not too tedium, that you're going to spend your time on, so that you're still energized enough to concentrate on music, you know, during your breaks, writing lyrics or practicing after work, right? You know,
Mhm.
but that goal, keeping that goal in mind, like it's like the carrot at the end of the stick.
Yep.
You got to keep dangling it, right? You have to keep
Mhm.
dangling it in front of yourselves to keep going.
Yep.
Yep. We got some good examples here that
Yes. Like Serena Williams
mhm,
persisted through injuries, criticism, and motherhood. Never stopped grinding, evolving, and dominating. She
mhm,
has constantly done better. Uh,
mhm,
and I and she's put herself into excellent positions
mhm,
of even outside of her sport.
mhm. Well, Serena has always in interviews and said that she had one goal from the beginning when they started in tennis, was to be the best she could be, to be
Mm,
absolutely the best at all times in her sport. And she really has, her and her sister Venus really have. They really have. Um,
Mm.
I like the first line of this, the returning to drive you had as a child. Remember when we didn't have fear
Yes.
before, fear of trying something new and going after something. We did
Mm.
fear and failure and the drudgery of life and fatigue took over. Keep going no matter what. I mean, as children, were we not energizer bunnies? We didn't even want to stop
Exactly.
after dinner. Like, I remember running home to have dinner just so I could go back outside until it was dark. You know, just
Mhm.
like whatever it was I was doing, like constantly on the go and just keep going at whatever it was I was doing at the time. You know, um, I I really would love to have that energy again, wouldn't you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, here's another one that I don't think many people know about him. He's actually top 10. Well, on Audible, he's one of the best-selling Audible books out there. James Clear worked for a really long time to build Atomic Habits, which is a book and an audio book that's out there um, a- about daily habits, about building these habits that can move you forward. And it spent years of blog posts and quiet refinement of these techniques before his success came from long-term repetition. He just kept at it. That's all he did. He just kept at it until he got it down, until this book came out there. Um, it just an absolute story of perseverance there. And
Mhm.
what I can do is actually give you guys an actual audio version of it that I found online. Audible be damned. But there's 6 hours of audio if anybody wants it for the book. Um, you know, it's like a TED talk on building habits and stuff. It's actually quite useful. But it didn't come easy for him either. You know, he had to learn it, and then he learned learning about it to become successful, which I find quite ironic. He's going to say that his natural persistence in building a long-term habit to get ahead. It's actually what he did to about a book about it, about the techniques about it to actually accomplish it. So it's pretty cool, actually, in the long run.
Yes. It's a book that I'm gonna be listening to at some point. Uh, the next one, Lizzo spent a decade in obscurity, writing, performing, experimenting before breaking through with self-made momentum. There are a lot of musicians that we know spend a large amount of their time out like in obscurity. There there are so many musicians that people are like, oh, they got given that job, or they're a plant or something like that, and they've actually been grinding so hard um to get where they are. And it's through that persistence. It's
Hmm.
through that just unadulterated drive to get where they want to be.
Hmm. We don't
And
hear
now,
about it till they make it, but there's always
yeah.
the behind the scenes story. And that's the
Hmm.
point. Like, we're looking at all these figureheads and these famous celebrities, these famous people, and we're thinking, oh God, like they must have had like an inside track. They must have, they're more creative than I am. They had more money than I am. Like somebody put them there. Not true. Every example that we are using throughout this series are self-made. These people did it through using the tools that are in this book, not because they're smarter than you or have more money than you or a better education, through the tools of the book: tenacity, strength,
Hmm.
visualization, just knowing how to read the room, things that we can all learn and use ourselves, that we are already using in small amounts. And the idea is to recognize it and bring it forward and use it more constructively to accomplish your goal. Does that make any sense? Because a lot of what we're
Hmm.
talking about is stuff that's can be translated to every day, you know,
Yep.
and that has been said out there a million times in a million different ways. But the idea is to recognize it so that you can control it and use it to strengthen your power forward, to not give your power away. Keeping your power all the time with your goal in motion, keeping the power of what you need, you want, and you want to accomplish all the time, not giving it away. That's not easy to do because life itself chips away at it, you know.
Yep.
So it's about refocusing on all of these tools and keys to keep it for yourself, to keep yourself as strong as you can be moving forward, to get your power back, to keep your strength, not easy. The last one is Angela Duckworth. Many of you will not recognize the name, but you might understand the concept when we talk about the theory, because it was a lot of studies done in psychology and education, especially on the college level, on what were the keys to success. What mattered more? Education, creativity, IQ, genetics? No. The studies that she did revolved around grit. And grit, well, that could be denied as your tenacity, your persistence, your ability to move forward no matter what's thrown at you. These are the stories you hear about, the people that pull themselves up from poverty, from Hell's Kitchen with 50 Cent. Okay. What is the first thing you think of with 50 Cent? Is it that he's smarter than anybody? No. Is he's got a better education? Obviously
Nope.
not. He got a foot forward, somebody like paid his way?
Nope. Definitely not.
It's grit. It's
It
that
is.
tenacity. It's that thing that people have. And the studies that she did proved that the people that were more successful scored higher on her grit scale. She found a way to test people for their mettle. When I say mettle, not MEDAL, I mean METTLE. The core of us, our fortitude. When we talk about that thing, the strength that every person has inside of them to push them forward through adversity and things like that. We're talking about the grit, the bearing down, the buckle down to get it done and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's a trait that she had to work on and embody in publishing and public speaking. But she actually helped, like, with this testing that is done, and they proved that people that tested higher on the grit scale did better successfully, were more successful than people with higher IQs or higher education.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that fascinating. And that's the lesson right there. It's not where you come from or what you have. It's what you do with it. Period. How many people can we look at other people in public figures that have lots of money and perfect education opportunities, and like they're not doing anything?
Yep.
Most
I'm sure we
most
all know people who have had who essentially had a silver spoon and they just spat it out and just did nothing with it.
or think they're doing something like a little crazy, like those oil protesters. How many of them are entitled or retired, don't have to work anymore, or come from a background where they have an inheritance in a higher education and they're just not working, and this is what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing? Yeah. Yeah, that's not a lot of grit. But you know what I mean. I found it fascinating when I found out who was actually speaking on this the most in talking about this. Well, that would be Angela Duckworth, and it's an important study. It's an important thing to know that that's what
It
matters.
is.
It's like anybody can do it. That's a lesson in it doesn't matter where you come from and it doesn't matter who you are. Anyone is able to do this. Anyone is able to with determination, in concentration, in learning about in taking the time to learn it and apply it and move forward. Anyone is able to accomplish success in whatever it is that they're trying to do. Building a business, making the best cookie recipe, of designing the best room, making the best rap song, whatever it is that your goal that you dangle in front of yourself, it's accomplished. You can accomplish it no matter where you come from or what your resources are. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it will be more adversity. We're not gonna like sugarcoat it. Will it be tougher? Absolutely. But is it possible? Absolutely. Without the education, without the resources, without the handout, it is still absolutely possible to accomplish almost anything you put in front of yourself.
Yes.
I
As long
know.
as you have the grit for it.
Yeah, I can just see the bear's rose-colored glasses coming as we go. I can just see it now. But I'm ready for it, people, because I truly believe that. Like I could tell you stories. It's possible. It is definitely possible. So then we get to the end of the book, and the last part that we cover is the reversal of perspective, which is what the author always does with 50, to say we have to look at that situation of patience in a different way. We've been doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the reversal of perspective for this chapter is that we generally experience boredom as something painful. What?
While you're reading that, I'll be right back.
Okay. We generally experience boredom as something painful and to be avoided at all costs. From childhood on, we develop the habit of immediately looking for some activity to kill that feeling. But this activity, if repeated often enough, becomes boring as well. And so, for our entire lives, we must search and search for novel amusements, new friends, new trends to latch onto, new forms of entertainment, new religions or causes to believe in. This search might lead us to change our careers and set us on a path of meandering here and there in search of something to dull the sensation. But in all these cases, the root of the problem is not boredom itself, but our relationship to it. Try to look at boredom from the opposite perspective, as a call for you to slow yourself down. Stop searching for endless distractions. This might mean forcing yourself to spend time alone, overcoming that childish inability to sit still. When you work through such self imposed boredom, you'll find your mind clicks into gear. You get new and unexpected thoughts. Well, they'll come to you and fill the void. You'll feel inspired. To feel inspired, you must first experience a moment of emptiness. Use these moments to assess the day that went by, to measure where you're headed. It's a relief to not feel that constant need for outside entertainment. On a higher level of this re education, you might choose a book to overcome your boredom, but instead of reading being a passive process or a diversion, you actively mentally engage the author in an argument or a discussion, making the book come to life in your head, having a purpose. At a further point, you take up a side activity, cultural or physical, that requires a repetitive process to master. You discover, like 50 did with boxing, you know, you discover a calming effect in the repetitive element of itself. In this way, boredom becomes a great ally. It helps you to slow things down, develop patience, and self discipline. Through this process, you'll be able to withstand the inevitability, empty moments of life and convert them into your own private pleasures. And then the book always ends with a good quote.
This one's
Um,
very good.
do you want to read it since I just
Okay.
read it? Yeah.
Uh, Now, there are individuals who would rather perish than work without taking pleasure in their work. They are choosy and have no use for ample rewards if the work is not itself the reward of rewards. They do not fear boredom as much as work without pleasure. Indeed, they need a lot of boredom if their work is to succeed. For all inventive spirits, boredom is that disagreeable lull of the soul that precedes a happy voyage and cheerful winds.
Mm-hmm.
Friedrich
Meaning,
Nietzsche's.
Friedrich Nietzsche. I love Nietzsche. And that speaks to me because basically what that says is like we've got to push through those moments of boredom. We have to turn boredom into patience and dedication and persistence because
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is. Like we have to develop more patience for those moments and use them in a different way instead of trying to fill them with distraction, fill them with constructive distraction, constructive
Mm.
remembering what we're doing, why we're bored, what we're here for, what we're trying to achieve,
And
what is
not
the
be
purpose.
afraid of the boredom.
Hmm. And not to be afraid to take chances, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
um like you said, looking up the experiments in boredom and fulfillment using Lego sets. I saw that, and actually I promote for that actually a lot. I have built many a Lego set, Liam. And I can tell you it really wasn't boring at all. Um
Mm.
well, and it's the patience of it. It's the process of, following instructions and going through and building something. It can be rewarding. But it's the habits. Whatever you do to keep boredom at bay and becoming patient, more patient with yourself and more patient with the process, you're going to achieve a lot more. It's going to be the difference between success and failure, being able to navigate those moments. There's not a quitter around who ever won. There's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of losers who win later, but there's no quitters that do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you can fail at something as long as you keep going. Trial and error, big thing. But walking away because of boredom or the need for distraction or to change things up without, dropping the ball, you're never going to get anywhere. It's
Failure is an excellent gift.
mm, true, true. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have to look up those experiments there, Liam. I actually know them well. I've,
Mm.
I've been there, done that. Well, that is our 2 hours and 20. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel? You made it through. You didn't run away. You okay?
I feel personally attacked, but I'm going to actually take a lot of what's said in this chapter and try my best to implement it in my own life, to be honest. I am
Mm,
going to try my best in not being afraid of boredom
mm,
and yeah, not like not fill my time with empty entertainment.
hmm. Well, even when we are filling our times with empty entertainment, aren't we learning when you're like doing it? Like, I don't want people to
Or
get the
doing it
idea.
appropriately.
Right, because I don't want to get get the idea that like it's not okay to just sit at night and watch an anime if you want and chill out.
Mm,
That's not what we're saying. We're,
no,
no, those
it's
things are still necessary to do because balance is also very necessary in life.
mhm,
But those active times during the day, like when you find yourself not being productive or you find yourself walking away from what you really intended to do because you're distracted or you're trying to fill the moments, because it's getting boring or dull. It's the tenacity to stick to it that we're trying to emphasize here. It is the actual looking at what's happening, recognizing what's happening, recognizing the boredom that you're feeling, recognizing the stalling and the need for some outside stimulation and using it
mhm,
appropriately, turning that information into something good for you, moving yourself forward, you know. It's all in
exactly.
acknowledging it.
Mhm,
Yep. So on that, I'm glad you made it through. And
mhm,
I'm sorry you felt personally attacked. I've had challenges with many of the chapters in this book. Um and the aggressiveness one, the reality one, opportunity, because like
Mhm.
nobody wants to be looked at as an opportunistic person, but you actually have to, in certain situations, understand that that's the nature of the beast, that being willing
Exactly.
to jump on an opportunity when it's available, or to be able to look at everything around you as to how it benefits you and what it is actually, is
Mhm.
a good thing. You don't have to become a shark, or a charlatan, but you know what I mean. There's benefit to all of it. Um,
Yep.
so I hope you'll all be back next week
Yes. And
for
next
chapter.
week it is push beyond your limits, self-belief.
Oh yes, as if we didn't tell you to get off your ass with the boredom thing. Now we're going to make you work on. Oh yeah. Okay. Great. Great. Okay. It- we'll see if we make it through the next one. We'll see.
Mhm.
On that, I think we'll cut
Which
it.
one of
Yeah.
us is going to get personally attacked this time?
I think it's both, actually. I think more than
Yeah.
likely. And I think if you think of the other chapters, I think you're being light about it. You did actually have to have some reaction to chapters 1 through 6 or 7
Oh,
already.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
mean, but chapter 8 really got you, because
Mhm.
and I think it gets most of us. I really do.
Mm.
We all have this issue. We all do. Patience is not something that human nature lets us do well
Nope.
naturally.
Mm.
Okay. We have to really work on it, for most of us anyway. All right.
Mhm.
Thanks, everybody. Any last words there, Red?
Uh, uh, well, keep working at it. Keep
Mhm.
keep working at it.
Yep. Patience is power, people. There you go.
Mhm.
See you later.